Affirmative vote on all the items on the city attorney's agenda.
Okay. All right. This time we will head into public agenda. I'd first like to call forward Dana Hendricks, who's representing D. Ray Enterprise. She'd like to speak to us regarding building taxes. Is Ms. Hendricks available? All right. I know that we had a cancellation on our second individual, so that will bring us to Randy Robertson, who's representing the Fraternal Order of Police, and would like to speak to us about recruitment and retention of public safety employees. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. City Manager, City Councilors, thank you so much for giving me a few minutes of your time. I promise I won't be long. My name is Randy Robertson. I'm president of the local Fraternal Order of Police. Our office is located at 1222 Broadway here in Columbus. And recently, some articles were read and a proposal was made to address the recruitment and retention concerns at the Columbus Police Department. And we had several members approach us about the plan and about the proposals. First of all, I want to thank the mayor for including a 2% COLA in her proposed budget for city employees. I think it's a great step in the right direction, along with the plan to eliminate some of the, permanently unfund some of the positions that are chronically open at the Columbus Police Department and redirecting that money to getting the starting pay near the where it is, almost $40,000. But somebody alluded to earlier that recruiting and retention is a huge problem with law enforcement throughout the country. We've got friends in Philadelphia that have the same problem. Spoke to some friends in Arlington Heights, Illinois. They have the same problem, as does Henry County, Georgia. Keeping good law enforcement officers is a tough job. But a lot of the studies that have been done show that starting salary is not always the problem solver. Because one thing you have to look at is the people we're losing are not the new people that are coming in the door and staying for a couple of years and then leaving and going other places. A lot of the ones we're losing is like a sergeant we lost a few weeks back who had been with the Columbus Police Department for 15 years. He froze his retirement and went to another job. That's a lot of experience walking out the door. That's a huge investment walking out the door. And the job he went to, the money is comparable to what he's making now. So as you go through this process of trying to figure out a better way to recruit, please focus hard on the way to retain the talent that we have there now. One of the studies I read said that reports have shown that some of the major reasons for lack of retention in law enforcement agencies are decreased benefits, higher medical costs, high work volume, stress, poor job satisfaction, and a lack of support from city, public, or department leadership. Those are things that have a greater impact on law enforcement officers on the job than what the starting salary is, or small adjustments throughout the ranks at the law enforcement agencies. And luckily, as you enter into this phase, and I know we've had our recruiting campaign going on for a couple of years now, but please let's don't forget that we pride ourselves on public-private partnerships here in Columbus, Georgia. It's something that we like to brag about every time there's a success. Well, let's don't forget we have a little company down the road here that sells insurance that is, for almost the last 20 years, has been rated by Forbes as one of the best places to work in the United States. Let's look at what they do. Let's look at what a lot of these companies do. And let's try to bring some of that into the consolidated government to make the people that work for the citizens of Muskogee County feel that they're appreciated. And again, it's not always money. I promise you, I spent over 30 years with the Columbus Consolidated Government, and not one day did I say I'm going in there because they just pay me everything I'll ever need. At my retirement, my brother-in-law made the comment that the one thing he did, well, one of the things he didn't like about me was the the fact that he never heard me complain about my job, because I loved my job for over 30 and a half years. And the reason I did that were those other things. It wasn't the every 2 weeks when I looked in my checking account and saw the money in there when I was married, when I was a single father, or married again. It was not that gave me pride. But it was working for a government, working for 3 sheriffs that I know appreciated what I did, and those who had my back, and those who appreciated the job out in the community. And it's those things like that. So as you move into this process, again, thank you so much, Mayor, for the recommendation of the 2% COLA. And I think the plan has some very positive aspects to it. But at the same time, please don't get focused just on money. And as you go through this process, especially in public safety, don't forget those people that don't wear the uniform. Don't forget those 911 dispatchers that are vitally important to us, especially in law enforcement and fire services. Don't forget those folks that do the job along with those that wear the badge. And that's all I have, and thank you all. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming down. All right. That concludes our public agenda. And we will head into the city manager's agenda. Mr. Hughley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Number 3 on my agenda is a TIA Supplemental Agreement Number 2 for US 27 Custer Road Interchange Reconstruction Modification. Requesting approval to enter into a supplemental agreement with Georgia Department of Transportation to adjust the $20 million budget for the Transportation Improvement Act that will provide necessary funding for engineering consulting services. We're not asking to increase the budget, but we need $700,000 for engineering.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this item? Okay, go ahead, Mr. Hughley.
Again, we want to use $700,000 of the $20 million budget for preliminary engineering, and so the budget amount will not change. We just need to allocate some funding for those engineering services. We're asking your approval.
All right, a motion is second. There appears to be no further discussion. It is queued for voting. You may record your votes electronically. I think we need one more. Councilor Davis? For some reason it didn't pick you up. There you go. Okay, and it does pass.
Next, I've got the Georgia Child Care and Parent Services Program. We're asking approval to sign a new child care provider agreement with the Department of Family and Children's Services, who operates the Georgia Child Care and Parent Services Program. Our Parks and Rec Department after-school program currently have 50 participants that are enrolled through this program. The program helps parents with child care costs who may not be able to afford child care services otherwise.
Got a motion and second for approval. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, you may record your votes electronically. And it passes.
Next, I'm asking your approval to enter into an agreement with Norfolk Southern Railway Company to conduct preliminary engineering for construction of an overhead bridge at Buena Vista Road and Ace Way. Norfolk Southern submitted a cost estimate of $23,032 to perform the required preliminary engineering services. We're asking your approval.
We have a motion and second for approval. Is there any discussion? We have Councilor Thomas.
Mr. City Manager, this says this is for preliminary engineering services. Am I correct in assuming that at some later date they'll come back, or somebody will come back with a cost of actually building this?
Yes.
Okay, so it's just $23,000
$1,032.
to do the engineering services.
That's correct.
And then ultimately, we'll have,
Why don't you explain what we got here?
Council Thomas, let me see if I can be as clear as I possibly can. The idea this is to encourage the railroad to do their part in terms of the engineering for the bridge itself. They may come back to us at a later date when the actual construction drawings are ready to go for additional engineering. Our price has already been set with our consultants, but this is to work with Norfolk Southern's engineering to make sure this project goes forward.
and ultimately, this bridge is part of the Buena Vista Road spiderweb
Yes, ma'am.
improvement, and the monies for those improvements are in the
Yes.
T-Splosh, right?
Yes, ma'am. All of this is contained within the T-Splosh itself.
Okay, I just want to make sure I've got my pots of money right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, let's see. So we have a motion and second. That concludes the discussion. It is queued for voting. It passes.
Next, I've got a...
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry, Counselor Davis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. City Manager, I wanted to let that vote get through the process, but since Norfolk Southern's name was mentioned, I want to just bring this up again. Last night, I saw a vehicle, I believe, that hit the railroad crossing on 54th Street and damaged it pretty bad. I know there's been several attempts to try to fix that crossing, even attempts where we've had to go up and clean a mess up there several times. But is there anything we can do to encourage Norfolk Southern to put some of the modern day, I guess they call them rail pads, those concrete pads that go across that can smooth that railroad crossing? It's been a detriment as far as vehicles go for a long time now. And I know our colleague, Councilor McDaniel, talked about it many times. I have, and you know, I'm not sure if it's on the item list for the new candidates, but that's something I wanted to bring to your attention after I saw that vehicle damaged last night.
And let me just say that as we deal with Norfolk Southern, it's always a something for something kind of deal. And so when they come forward looking for something going forward, that'll be on our list of something that we need in return. And so we will list that and note it and work on it.
Can work with that. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Got a lease agreement for right-of-way on Miller Road at Marathon Petroleum Company. We're asking for your approval to allow Marathon Petroleum Company to transfer all of its rights, duties, and obligations to MPLX Terminals, LLC, which are required in the lease agreement with the City of Columbus. Back in 1996, the city assumed a lease as part of the Rails to Trails program, and that lease, we don't deal with the expenses, liabilities with the lease agreement at all, but we do receive $15 a year for the right-of-way lease agreement. And so it's a transfer, and we would still receive the $15 a year. The city would not be responsible for expenses incurred as part of this lease agreement. And so we're asking your approval.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Seeing no discussion, it is queued for voting. It passes.
The next one is a big one because it has a lot in it, but it's for road improvement, safety, and alternative transportation projects. We've got a list of road projects, and I will name them. They're road improvements, they're safety and alternative transportation projects, that have been identified. Budget estimates are provided. We've got numbers in here and funded through one of these sources: the other local option sales tax, the special purpose local option sales tax, the T-SPLOST discretionary, or LMIG dollars. And so these are projects with funding sources that are already there. And we are basically asking to be able to move forward to proceed with executing and funding the pre-construction requirements of all of these various projects. And so on the first part that I'm asking you to approve, there's a Salmon Road signal at US 80 Beaver Run Road. It's a T-SPLOST discretionary. It's $250,000. There's a Linwood 6th Avenue Bridge, T-SPLOST discretionary, $500,000. There's the Fort Benning Road Bridge, T-SPLOST discretionary, it's $1 million. Double Churches Parking, T-SPLOST discretionary, $200,000. Traffic calming, and we've had much discussion about traffic calming. It's not nearly enough, but it's a start. T-SPLOST discretionary, $100,000. Cooper Creek ADA upgrades, it's other local option sales tax, $100,000. And then Fortson Road, Williams Road roundabout, LMIG, $1.5 million. That's the first part. And then the second part, already funded projects through the Rails to Trails and Liberty District Fund. We've got $2.4 million left in the Rails to Trails that would, the original Rails to Trails project was going to go from the Civic Center to CSU, to Cooper Creek, to Salmon Road. And you know, we did the 11 miles, and the real trail starts at 10th up by the Medica Center, and then it goes out to CSU and on out to Salmon Road and Flat Rock Park. From 10th at the Medica Center downtown to the 14th Street Bridge, we use the roadway, as you know. We use Linwood Boulevard. We come down to 14th Street, and it travels on in to the bridge. We didn't actually construct a trail. We've got $2.4 million remaining, and then in the Liberty District, we had $5 million initially in the special purpose local option sales tax. We've got, and it was for roads and infrastructure and things like that in the Liberty District. And we acquired property. We've done things in the Liberty District. Of course, the 6th Avenue flood abatement came through there. That wasn't a part of the $5 million, but we got $1.5 million left. And we would like to use $600,000 of that. Part of that would be used for a Rails to Trails from in the Liberty District component, and that's from 10th Avenue to Veterans Parkway. And then in an area near on 9th, we'd like to do a park and ride lot. And these are already allocated funds that are dedicated for infrastructure or specific projects. OLOS, T-SPLOST, discretionary, special purpose local option sales tax. But the second part of this is an opportunity where the Community Foundation has an opportunity to apply for a $5 million night grant. It's only available to 7 cities. In order to get that $5 million grant, there has to be a $5 million match. And because we have the $2.4 million remaining in the Rails to Trails Fund, because we've got 1.5 and we would only allocate $600,000 from the Liberty District Fund, That's $3 million that you can approve in already allocated funds for specific projects. And these projects, you got to do what we said we were going to do with this money. The community foundation would have to come up with private funding or funding from other public sources in the amount of $2 million to get the $5 million in-kind match. Because we're going to do these projects anyway, it has to be something related to trails, rails to trails, and in the Liberty District, of course, we could do trails as part of the infrastructure and the park and ride lot. That's $3 million that we can say to the community foundation, here's $3 million that we've got to spend on these things anyway, that you can use to submit as part of your $5 million in-kind in order to qualify to receive the $5 million grant. We're asking your approval for that second component, also. And so these are dollars that are already allocated, projects that are already specified. We simply need your approval to proceed.
Okay, we've got a motion for approval, and we've got counselor's line for discussion. Is there a second so that it's on the table? And there's a second. Okay, we have Counselor Thomas.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. City Manager, I want to ask in two parts. The first part is the money that you have noted is the discretionary T-SPLOS money. Yes. When we first started looking at T-SPLOS money and the discretionary aspect of it, we said we were not going to allocate any of that money until it actually came in. Am I correct in that this fulfills that requirement still? I mean, we're not looking at money that we don't already have.
That's correct.
Correct.
Absolutely.
I just want to make that clear. The other thing is, I have had some conversations with some folks from the community foundation, and this this activity that they are looking at, when it says that Columbus, Georgia is one of only 7 cities in the nation that has been looked at by the Knight Foundation and the Rockefeller Foundation. One of the things I was told is Columbus is the only one of those 7 cities that you need to put the state's name behind so you'll recognize it. The others are all very large cities. Yeah. Detroit, Chicago, Akron, Ohio, those Long Beach, California, places that are much larger than Columbus, but Columbus was selected along with these states to apply for this grant. And one of the things that I want to emphasize, I think Mr. City Manager is correct, when you say the community foundation that you can count this money, what we are actually saying is we're going to use this money for this project over here, but the Knight Foundation and the Rockefeller Foundation, these other folks will let you count it toward the $5 million. You don't have to spend that $3 million on the projects that are going on in the grant. Is that sort of correct?
Well, we're going to spend it on the projects that were approved by you, by the voters. That $2.4 million, we were approved $12 million for rails to trails. And of course, I'm reluctant to remind you that it said trolley on rail, and it said walking, biking, jogging trail, and it said from the Civic Center to Columbus State, Cooper Creek, Salmon Road, Flat Rock.
Yeah, I understand that, but I guess my point is that the project that the Community Foundation is doing does not necessarily include the rails to trails and the park and ride.
That's correct.
But the money that we are allocating for that, they can use to help. They can use that.
It's
am I saying the right thing? They can
yes.
use that money, but they don't have to spend it on some other project. This qualifies.
That 5 million would be, their 5 million that they are going to allocate to us would be used on those projects.
Right, and okay, I think that,
If we get the 5 million. If we put up this 5 million in kind, with our 3 million that we're going to do regardless, if they don't get the $5 million grant, we're going to do those things
we're
anyway.
still going to do this.
Yes. And so they're going to go and find 2 million more to go with it to say that here's cash or in kind that we are using as match to support the 5 million. They get the 5 million, then they'll go and do those civic commons things with that.
And I think that we need to be very cognizant of the fact that, as I said, Columbus is one of the 7 cities selected by these organizations, these foundations. They know what Columbus can do and what Columbus has done. And much of that is because of the Community Foundation and some of the other partners that they have brought into these projects throughout, over the last years, that we've made an impact, we've made an impression, if you will, on the Knight Foundation particularly, of how we do things in Columbus and how we cooperate as in this public-private partnership. And I just want to say to the Community Foundation how much we appreciate what they do for us and how they do make us better, and how that this will certainly go a long way to further enhance that project. Thank you, Mr. City Manager.
And just for those listening, this is not general fund money, it's not paving fund money, it's not sewer fund money, it's not any other money other than what we've talked about. It's special purpose local option sales tax money that the voters said, here's what we're going to do with it, and we still got some money there, and we have not completely finished the project that we shared with them we would do. And it's an opportunity, and it's that we've got the money still there that we can support the Community Foundation in this effort to get $5 million to support this community in terms of enhancing the quality of life. And so it's a great opportunity for us.
All right. We have Councilor Huff.
Mr. City Manager, could you walk me through the part with the Liberty District, what we're actually doing?
Well, we'd like to have a bikeway pathway that gets you actually down to the river. The Liberty District money can only be spent on components. When we brought the path plan forward, we showed you that there were so many different connections that we were trying to make that we would complete.
Right.
I think it was 16 miles, or we'd end up with about 30 miles of connected walking, biking pathway from 10th Avenue, which is in the Liberty District, down to 9th. Eventually, we wanted to come from Martin Luther King, the pathway. But we can do this piece from 10th down to 9th, and 10th down to 9th, and 9th to Veterans, because the Liberty District stops at Veterans. And so then we'd have to figure out how to get the pathway from Veterans to the river. But we could not use Liberty District monies for that. And so that's the only component in the Liberty District that would be covered. And we would also be doing a park and ride site somewhere there around First African Baptist Church in the Liberty District with the $600,000.
Okay. So where are we as far as the pathway coming down Martin Luther King?
Well, that's something we are continuing to work on. We've got $850,000 or so to resurface Martin Luther King.
Is that coming?
Well, that money, we've got it. We can resurface at any time.
I've heard about resurfacing now for years, and I'm trying to figure out how and when do we resurface. I just got another complaint today about the road itself.
Yeah.
And it's getting worse. And I'm trying to figure out, we were holding an initial conversation about resurfacing and other things, and then the path, and trying to, in the street, not in the street. We came up with some ideas working through the Community Foundation. They brought people in from PATH and had some great ideas. So I'm just asking, where are we as far as getting the road resurfaced and connecting up?
Well, let me just say that we can start resurfacing the road as soon as next week, or as soon as we can mount up the paving company. What we'd like to do, obviously, is try and figure out how we can do a project one time. If we are going to be able to work the rails, the pathway, the 12-foot wide along Martin Luther King on some components, and I think you've been introduced to that. I mean, we'd like to figure that out. We have not figured it out yet.
I mean, that piece is out of the street now.
Pardon?
That piece is out of the street except for one segment of it.
Out in the street?
Out of the street.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
not in the
yeah,
street.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And you've seen the renderings on that.
Yeah.
And so we're still discussing that, and we're not there yet. But,
Okay.
I mean, if council said, you know, go ahead and proceed with resurfacing, don't worry about working, we don't want to come in and tear up something.
Right.
We'd like to get it right and bring it forward altogether, and we just,
Yeah.
we're still
I mean,
working.
what would we need to do as far as meetings, planning, to try to get to that point?
Well, we got to, first of all, have funding to do the bikeway pathway, and we don't have that funding yet. And so we'd like to have some funding for that when we resurface the road, to do it all at one time.
So the piece is connecting downtown now. We were coming down Martin Luther King to connect, to go to the river. So we're going to skip Martin Luther King and go to 10th Avenue and head to the river, and then we're going to come back.
Well,
Because on the other
Well,
end,
what
it's
we're
supposed to
asking
head
you-
out to,
what we're asking you for
Something.
tonight
well, I understand. I'm
is...
just trying to figure out where we are.
This grant has to be submitted by the end of this month. And so just because it's approved, if we get the $5 million, it doesn't mean that we're going to take off and do the component in the Liberty District before we are able to piece together the piece on Martin Luther King. But we need to proceed forward with your approval on this in order to have the $5 million to get the $5 million.
Yeah, I'm okay with this.
And then we can come back and talk about when we move forward with bringing it from 10th to Veterans up 9th. And do we do that when we get all of it figured out for Martin Luther King, or do we go ahead and do that and then continue to figure out Martin Luther King? We're not there yet.
Okay, because the Martin Luther King piece has to be tied into the other end, going out, what was the particular Bull Creek? That's why I'm trying to look at the overall. There was, Martin Luther King sits in between the piece of getting to 10th Avenue, getting down to the river, and then the other end going out.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of discussion going on about how we can piece all of this together. And you know, other funding sources are being sought, other public and private support is being sought. I mean, that discussion is ongoing on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, are we making progress? Are we looking pretty good?
Well, I can say I'm not necessarily doing it. We've got community people doing it, and I think they are making progress.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, we have Councilor Baker.
I remember when we were first putting together the list for the T-Splosh projects, and because of where they were centered, and there were big ticket items, I think, that actually made the voter list. But we had a lot of discussions about the discretionary funding. Since all the council districts were in desperate need of various types of transportation improvements, there was going to be a concerted effort to equalize the discretionary spending throughout the districts. So I just want to make certain that's being monitored and somebody's keeping up with that, because we all have demands and needs in our particular districts for the discretionary money. So I just want to make sure that's being monitored and equalized.
Well, my response to that would be yes, and any discretionary projects that we do are approved by you, and so we want you to help us monitor it and equalize it. And if you see that there's something there that's not equalized, then, because you've got to vote on them, we don't proceed forward without your okay, let us know.
Right. And it may help, a mapping may help, too, to see that, because we really haven't done a lot with discretionary spending yet, as I recall.
Yeah, well,
I don't believe so.
And we can certainly do some mapping that will make it very clear to you and to citizens, so that they can see that it's equalized.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. We've got Counselor Woodson.
Most of my questions have been answered with the comments going around the table, but I have one still that I need a little clarification. With the development, streetscape, we're going to connect the Liberty Theater, the Liberty District with the downtown area eventually?
That's the goal. We've got some broken links that we'd like to piece together that you can get on, for example, the Fall Line Trace at Flat Rock and come all the way down to the Riverwalk. Or you can get on the Follow Me Trail at Fort Benning and get downtown to the Riverwalk. We've got some broken links, and the goal of what we've been discussing is to connect all those links. And so it's going to be a piece at a time. For example, we anticipate that we are going to have a 12-foot wide pathway from the Spiderweb on Buena Vista Road all the way to Winton, where it connects to Winton Road at 13th. And so that's on the agenda. When we do the Spiderweb project, within the boundaries of the Spiderweb project, Martin Luther King, a short distance up to Annette, there's going to be a roundabout. Well, within the boundaries of that Spiderweb project, we think DOT will allow us to get from Martin Luther King at Buena Vista to the roundabout. Well, then we got to figure out how do you get from the roundabout to Brown Avenue, and Brown Avenue downtown, that we connect it to 10th Avenue, where I'm talking these Liberty District funds would get us to veterans. And then we've got private people working to try and then get it from veterans to the river. And so these are things that will happen over a period of time, but we're trying to figure it all out.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, and I'm in support of this. I don't have a problem with it. But I was just wondering where, and maybe you just need to bring us something back. Where are we with that, and I don't know, Betsy, maybe you can help me. Where are we with that group that came and we went and met with them, and they were going to do a plan to connect these along with the city and other entities so that there weren't so many different entities working, that everybody will come together and you can do it. Where some areas it just took a little painting or a couple plants or something and connected it all together. Where is that in this?
They're right. They're involved in this. We met with them yesterday.
Okay.
We meet with them on a regular basis, and they are a part of all of what we're doing.
Well, I would like for like an update on that, where
Sure.
we are there. And I'm more of a visual person. We can talk and I can try to figure it out in my mind. And I think there's a lot of taxpayers that are the same way. But I like for us to come back and show this connection you're talking about, the Liberty, downtown, Martin Luther King, how it looks, how is it going, even a schematic that it doesn't have to be perfect, but gives you a visual of what we're trying to do in the community and what that organization or the different organizations are doing to make this a reality. Because I think if we had that in place, the concerns about Martin Luther King and connecting the Liberty Theater, all of it to be one, I think we'll have a better, clear understanding, and the individuals that are working on those projects would have a clear understanding of what we envision and we think that they're doing. Because right now, I don't know about anybody else, but it sounds like we're trying to connect a lot of dots, but everybody's going in different directions.
Well,
And I like to see it where it shows that we're connecting, that these
Well-
things are coming to reality. Even if we do a small portion of it already, it should come over so the citizens can see what was
well,
accomplished.
and let me say, we can bring that back, but RiverLink is what it's called, and we brought it and we presented all of the connecting points, and we did bring that to council, and PATH came and
That was a long time ago.
well,
You just adding some
yeah.
more stuff to it.
and so, no, it's the same thing.
Okay.
I'm just not showing you the visual, and we can certainly bring the visual and go back over that and show you how we anticipate it all connecting when we pull all the different pieces, the broken links together.
I'm just saying that because we hear this, but we're not seeing it. You know, we can't see it. And I know there's been some beautification. I know there's been some development, because right outside of here, when you leave the parking lot, they repaved that and they did the bike and trail area where there's the bike on one side and the cars on the other. And I think we just need to let the citizens see what we're talking about, what is connecting, how is it working, how they can feel safe to go down these paths, to know that when we make these agreements with other private sectors, and they can see what's the outcome of the money that's being used.
Well, we'll be happy to come back and present the RiverLink concept, the plan, and I think you'll see all of how we anticipate bringing together, piecing together the missing links that provides connectivity from the outer limits of Columbus into the Riverwalk.
And and this real quick, and Mayor, I'll be done. I kind of, while we're talking about this, I'd like to have a referral, if I may, please. We keep talking that we're going to meet with the stakeholders of the Liberty Theater area and the district. Can we have a meeting set no later than June? Sometimes work something out where we can have a meeting and to discuss that plan, because every time we try to do something there, there's conflicts or different, all the development with the TAD and all this connecting with each other. I think it's time that we come to the table and envision it all connected together and how it would look and what we need to do. And I know they've been working with with a developer, because I introduced them to a developer to a couple of the stakeholders. So I'd like for us to set up something so that the path, what did you call it, the river?
PATH
The
is the
Path
organization.
organization and what we're discussing today in that area could show how it would all link going towards downtown, coming up, and going to Martin Luther King.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
All right, we have Councilor Davis.
I just want to make an observation. I know it was stated about the context subject is about transportation improvements, infrastructure, and I'd just like to note, outside the large projects that have been voted on and GDOT projects like that, similar projects, I just want to commend the city manager and the administration, the staff. I think over the years in working with this city manager and the staff, along with our mayor, that they've always been cognizant of a balance of realizing that there's 8 districts and doing a good job in spreading the funding across the board. And I really appreciate that. That's something that is rarely said, but it does happen. I think it happens. I see that in all the districts, to be honest with you, and I would see no reason here that the city manager would not continue to do as he's done in the past. So I do thank you for that, Mr. City Manager.
All right. Thank you. We have a motion and a second, right? Okay, discussion is concluded, and it is queued for voting. Please record your votes electronically. Okay, let's see. Yeah, Councilor Davis. Has that got everybody? I think that's it. All right, and it does pass. Thank you.
Mayor, I've got some purchases.
Okay.
A change order one for Moon Road widening, Phase 2, from Wilbur Drive to Willesee Boulevard. This is $540,202. And the primary need of the change order one is for additional work due to the installation of the new 12-inch water main service on Moon Road and sewer utility relocations due to installation of the new water service. And so it includes a number of things: sanitary manhole grading complete, water mains, gate valves, and tap and sleeves, fire hydrants. And the original project, $4.9 million. This is $540,000. The new contract amount is $5.4 million. It's within the budget, and we're asking your approval on this.
Okay, we've got a motion for approval and a second. Seeing no discussion, it is queued for electronic voting. Let's see. It passes. Thank
Got
you.
Harley Davidson Road King motorcycles.
Okay. We've got a motion to approve items B and C, Harley Davidson's Road King motorcycle, police motorcycles, and Chevrolet Impalas per the statewide contract. Seeing no discussion, those items are queued for voting. It passes.
I've got STEM-mandated solid waste disposal fees. This is an annual fee based on tonnage.
Okay, we've got a motion and second to approve item D, which is state-mandated solid waste disposal fees. Seeing no discussion, it is queued for electronic voting. Please record your vote. It passes.
I've got an upgrade, and we came to council with information on 800 megahertz radio system, but I've got an upgrade here. It's Amendment 2 of the contract of 800 megahertz radio and maintenance, and it's $939,381.30. The additional cost will be paid annually over 9 years at $104,375 a month. This amendment is required to add the maintenance of the city's siren system to the contract, which is also connected to the city's 800 megahertz system. So,
Got a motion and second for approval. Seeing no discussion, the item is queued for electronic voting. And it passes.
we've got surplus vehicles and equipment, asking your approval to allow us to move forward to declare vehicles and equipment surplus.
Got a motion and second for approval. We have Counselor Davis with discussion.
Well, it was on a previous one, so I'm ready to go ahead and vote on this, and then if you'd allow me, Mayor, I'll make a comment, City Manager.
Okay. All right. Then there is no further discussion, and we'll cue it for voting. And it passes. And Counselor Davis.
Ms. City Manager, at some point in time, I think it's very important in light of some things that have happened in the district I represent lately, but and it's happened to me before, but in light of this 800 megahertz system, at some point in time, could we have a discussion on that just to inform the public how that works? Because there are areas where when you call 911, it's transferred either across the river or at times even Albany. And, you know, I just think that's important for the citizens to know what's going on, because it's very confusing and very disturbing at times depending on what your need might be.
Yep.
So I think it's a very valid discussion to have the right people to just to inform the public.
We can have the chief and Major Sweeney come to speak about that. I've heard them speak about it publicly several times, and it's something people need to realize and why it happens.
We'll certainly do that.
Okay.
Yeah. Next, I've got a security locking system, a maintenance service for the Muscogee County Prison. It's $25,000.
Okay, we've got a motion and second.
Yeah, we did.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. Tiny, did we approve the surplus vehicles? I think we did, and then Counselor Davis had a statement. Okay, let's see here. So now we are on the security locking system for the Muscogee County Prison. It is queued for voting. You may record your votes electronically. And it passes.
The next two are name changes only for vendors. The first one, the vendor Harris Computers, was changed to Tailored Business Systems, Inc., and nothing else with the agreement contract will change, and we're asking your approval on the name change.
Okay, we've got a motion and second to approve item H. There being no discussion, the item is queued for your electronic voting. And it passes.
And the next one is a name change only from John Deere Landscapes to Site One Landscape Supply, with nothing else changing in the contract.
Okay, and I heard a motion from the Mayor Pro Tem. Was there a second? And a second on item I. There being no discussion, the item is queued for your electronic vote. Let's see, we're missing one. Counselor Woodson. There we go, and it passes. Yeah. Okay, we've got a motion and second for the body-worn cameras. Is there any discussion related to this item? Okay, seeing none, it is, hold on a second. Now it's queued for voting. Let's see, we're missing one. How about Counselor Davis? Need to press again. There you go. Thank you. And it passes. Let's see, Counselor Woodson.
Mayor, I'm not sure if you know, or can you bring it back to us to let us know, how are we doing with the body cameras?
Yeah, we are making steady progress. To tell you the truth, I have so many numbers in my head because of budget tonight. Let me have the chief come back and brief us on that to tell us where we are, and he's got, phased-in step plan given his budget, but he's getting at a pretty good clip. So
Okay.
if we can, T, I should make that an additional referral so I don't forget.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I've got the Health and Wellness Center for city employees and pre-65 retirees and dependents. We had Shaw Hankins come at the last meeting and present to you.
We've got a motion, and we have a second for approval. We have Counselor Thomas with discussion.
I just have a question. Mayor, I noted in your presentation to us earlier on the proposed, your recommended budget, that there were some things dealing with the Health and Wellness Center. By our approval of this contract at this point,
Right.
how does that marry up with some of those kinds of things? I guess
I'll let
maybe
Retha or Pam confirm this, just so you can see it from different standpoints, but it's frankly irrelevant who's actually running the Health and Wellness Center. It will be more of a higher policy decision we'll be making as to how many people will be going there and some of the tweaks of our plan. But my understanding is it doesn't affect what the vendor is at all. It's just sort of the broad marshaling directions we give them as to how we'd like
Well,
them to.
I noticed on here that it does talk about some of the services that we offer, and if we're going to make any kind of changes in that, it would impact the contract, I would assume. I guess maybe my question is, if we approve this tonight, what kind of timeline are we looking at so that if council has conversations about any changes at the Wellness Center, will those be,
Absolutely.
will it be done in time?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it
Will
will
our
be.
discussion be done in time to impact any contract negotiations if necessary? And that's a big if necessary, I don't know.
Well, and let me just say that the response to that is yes. Transform Health will be leaving CARE ATC will be coming in, and they will be guided by the directions that we give them. And so it's a change in who's managing the Health and Wellness Center, and they'll be guided by our directions, and we can negotiate even after the agreement has been signed with them. They'll be guided by the things that we want to happen at the Health and Wellness Center.
Okay, I just didn't want to get out of sync.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think, my understanding, I know we have representatives here today, and we welcome them from the group, but they're stepping in for this period of time, and my understanding is they work a lot of health and wellness centers around the country, and so they're ready and able to do sort of what we want within this broad spectrum. And my further understanding, Retha, which you can confirm and certainly the city manager can execute, is that the contract itself doesn't bind us to what goes on within that broad box. We've got a broad box of service, and the details they can work with us on. So is that accurate, Retha and Mr. City Manager?
Yes.
Okay.
I just didn't want us to take any action that would tie the hands of the staff for doing the contract negotiations. That was my only, and you have explained that it will not, so that's
Yeah.
good. Thank you.
All right. Let's see. We have no further discussion, so we will. Yes, I'm sorry. Have we done? I swear I thought we did. Okay. A motion. Do we have a second? Okay, a second. And I see no discussion. Please record your votes electronically. And it passes. Thank you.
I've got a number of updates, and the first one is Executive Director of
Ms.
Elections.
We've got Councilor Huff would like to speak before you give your updates.
One request. There was a bust of Eugene Bullitt in the Columbus Airport,
Yes.
and it's come up missing or something.
Yeah,
They
we've
said they have a
sent
Coke
an
machine
email.
where it used to be.
Yeah, we've
Yeah,
sent an
yeah,
email to Richard Howell today asking for him to
Yeah,
look
so it's a
into
Coke
that.
machine where the bus used to be.
Yeah, I did send Richard Howell an email today. Ronzel Buckner brought it to my attention. He sent me an email, and I sent that email to Richard Howell at the airport
Okay.
and asked him to respond to Mr. Buckner and to us.
Okay,
about
thank
that.
you.
Okay. All right, let's see, we have Councilor Henderson.
Thank you, and I'd just like to ask the clerk to record my affirmative vote on item 7 on the city manager's agenda.
Okay.
With that, we'll move into the updates. Nancy Boren, Executive Director of Elections.
Hey, Nancy.
Hey.
I didn't see you out there.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, Mr. City Manager. I'm here to give a council update on elections and voter registration, as well as addressing some concerns that Councilor Huff had in reference to voting at the National Infantry Museum on March the 1st. First, a little statistics. We have 89,472 active registered voters in Muskogee County. We have 6 full-time employees in our elections office, and of course, we beef up with temporary workers and poll workers during election time. We will be training over 300 poll workers that will service on May the 24th, which is Election Day. We're currently working with GIS to enhance the voter opportunities to access information through our city website, and that will be rolled out prior to the May 24th general primary. Early voting will begin on May the 2nd. It will be May the 2nd through May the 20th. We will be voting from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m., Monday through Friday. We will vote on Saturday and Sunday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. This is the first time that we will be voting on Sunday, and we will have 2 Sundays for voters to have their opportunity to cast their ballot. One of those Sundays is Mother's Day. So bring your mother to the poll on Mother's Day and you can vote early. Yeah. Election Day, of course, is May the 24th, and that is the general primary and the nonpartisan election. Voters will be required to select a ballot, a Democratic, a Republican, or a nonpartisan ballot. If they elect to choose Democratic or Republican, the nonpartisan candidates will appear at the bottom of that ballot. If there is a runoff necessary, it will be on July the 26th, 2016. We have 26 precincts and 1 early voting precinct, again, here at the City Services Center. To address a complaint that Councilor Huff had about the National Infantry Museum, if you've been to the National Infantry Museum, you know that the parking lot is quite a distance from the entrance to the National Infantry Museum. So we have contacted the museum, and they will have a trolley or tram service and golf carts available to transport voters on Election Day to the door so that they do not have to walk as far. The voter registration deadline for the May 24th election is today. So if you need to change your name, your address, or any information on your voter registration record, just make sure that you do that today. You can do it through My Voter app or through Georgia Votes app. If anyone has any questions, I hope that was short enough and quick enough.
Okay, we have Councilor Huff.
Thank you for taking time out of your schedule and being here. I hope you didn't miss a tennis match with your girls.
I did, but that's okay.
Yeah, champions. They play. If you don't know, she has 2 daughters that just play championship tennis each and every week. Thank you for the follow-up. What will we be able to do to get the message out to those that used to vote within the Frank Chester, Muskogee area that they are to vote at the Infantry Museum?
Well, this is the second election that we will be using the National Infantry Museum as a voting precinct. We sent precinct cards to every registered voter that was affected by that change. We did legal ads as well as publicity in the local media.
Is there anything we can do on CCG TV and our website to let everyone know the sites?
Well, she has full access to CCG
Okay.
TV, and certainly we can do whatever
Yeah.
she wants to do.
Because the frustration came last time from people showing up at 1 or 2 locations and just decided to go home, and that's when my phone started ringing.
There was some frustration, too, when the school district announced that they were going to close Muskogee Elementary.
Right.
Actually, these voters were moved from Muskogee Elementary to the National Infantry Museum. There was an election after the school board said that they were going to move the precinct or close the school. We did have an election there, but we did tell everyone, look, you're going to have to move because the school is closing. And that was in November of 2014.
Right.
We then had the special election in 2015 at the National Infantry Museum. So we will attempt to have a greater coverage of that information of voting at the National Infantry
Would you
Museum.
mind doing a piece on CCG TV on just all of the voting locations? Yeah, and if there's a way to kind of single that out and let them know that this has been moved since 2014, and your new voting precinct is Infantry Museum.
The other big complaint that we received on Election Day, March 1st, was the new Columbus Tech voting precinct, where we combined Fox Recreation Center and Northside Baptist Church at Columbus Tech. So we will do some more public service announcements on those 2 precinct changes.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time and effort.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next, I've got transportation update from Deputy City Manager Pam Hodge.
Good evening. This is just a transportation update to give you some information about where we are with current projects. We have 23 major active projects under construction or design, totaling about $58 million. Another 5 for T-Splost, which is another $172 million. We have 22 more projects that we anticipate over the next 5 years, another $26 million. That's 50 projects at $256 million over the next 5 years. And we get quite a few complaints about road projects and road closures and detours, and it's really a great problem to have that we're able to do these road projects, and we know that it's an inconvenience, but in the end, it's just improvements for our city. Just to start out, we'll talk about Forest Road Phase 1. It's a widening project. The design is substantially complete. Utility relocations and the right-of-way plans are underway, and this just shows those projects where you can see the new poles going in. So they're proceeding forward with Forest Road Phase 1. On the Forest Road Cooper Creek, the bridge replacement that's currently under construction, we're anticipating June of 2016 for completion on that particular project. And this just is some pictures of recent pictures from April of this month, earlier this month. The Bull Creek Bridge, that one is under construction. We've had substantial utility relocation delay on this particular project. We're looking at the end of the year before this project will be completed. And this has really slowed down our project. We've had to demobilize the contractor until AT&T can remove their lines. So it really has slowed us down on this particular project. And you can see in this picture the lines under the bridge, the conduit under the bridge is AT&T, and we're just waiting for that to be moved so we can move forward.
Yeah, Pam, let me clarify, because Terry Smith, we want to get here to answer these questions, and I want to see if I state this correctly from my briefing on this. We have all had a lot of calls. As I understand it, it is absolutely standard protocol for our Transportation Engineering Department to coordinate with all of the utilities and all of the contractors to come up with a plan that hopefully works seamlessly. You have weather and other variables, but the moving of these lines was taken into consideration, was mapped out in a schedule, and what happened was AT&T basically reneged or changed their mind on what their original scheduled time was. They told us they could do this in X period of time, and then when it actually came time to do it, they said it would be months longer than that. And so whether that's because they reevaluated it anew or the first person gave us a wrong answer, but it was the person we worked with, the person who was supposed to be able to tell us, and that's what happened. It's not that we didn't consider that utilities would have to be moved or that we're clueless at how to bring these things together. It's that AT&T either gave us the wrong answer or discovered some sort of new information, but what they told us and what we planned on in the timeline, they have now changed radically.
That is correct.
Okay.
We have pre-construction meetings for all projects. All utility companies are involved, and this one has just been one where we've been giving timelines on this particular project, and they've moved or been extended numerous times. And like I said, we've had to demobilize our contractor just because they've done as much as they can possibly do until this is finished.
Okay.
Victory Drive, this one should be completed within the month, first part of April. You can see that the turn lanes are in, and this is at the entrance for the new Walmart. Intersection improvements for Victory Drive. Just moving on then for Double Churches Veterans Parkway, this is another one that we get quite a few calls on. A lot of times when they don't see people out there actually working, they think nothing has been done or no one's working on it, but there are things being done in this particular project. This is an intersection improvement. At this point, we are waiting for the lights to arrive so that installation can be completed, and this has a scheduling completion date of August of 2016.
Let's see, the Mayor Pro Tem has a question.
Deputy City Manager Hodge, I understand that some people are having problems on telling where the lanes are.
Yeah, and we've had some questions from quite a few citizens. I think the lanes have been marked, but they're different than the lanes that it used to be at that particular intersection. And so they haven't done the striping on the roads yet, so it has been a little confusing. The left turn lane and the straight lane are combined into one lane until we're able to get the lights in. and
it's gonna
then we
stay like
can
that
open
until-
up that other lane for traffic.
It'll be like this until August?
Until August. It will be not all like this, but it will be under construction until August. The 14th Street Plaza, that is under construction. We're looking at completion date within the next month or so for this project. You can see the pavers have gone in. They're getting everything completed so that we can then, in the next phase, move forward into the Front Street tie-in from 13th to 14th. And this will tie in, obviously, to the 14th Street pedestrian bridge. Moon Road is another one that we're on the final punch list for. Just finishing up some of this project. Sidewalks have been completed. Finishing up on the traffic signals.
Okay, we've got Councilor Davis.
Deputy City Manager Hodge, I know that you and I have had some conversations. I've also talked to our engineer, Dr. Dorsey, as well. I think everybody's aware of the problem in the turning lane that was coming out of Columbus Park Crossing and turning, it would be east, I think it'd be east or north, heading on Moon Road. I was told initially there were several reasons why that happened or why it's happening, but that the city's well aware of. I know there's been a number of complaints, but the city is well aware of that, and they're working on that to try to solve that. I'm not sure if there was a cut line in place or just a realigning of the sensory system there, but I want everybody, if you would just comment on that so everybody will know what's going on.
Right, and typically during construction, they'll evaluate the timing of the lights, but we'd like to wait till the construction is completed and the traffic patterns are kind of at a normal traffic pattern, and then they'll go back and reevaluate the timing of the lights, and that's where we're at with the Moon Road project, as well as the 10th Street project downtown, now that it's converted from one-way to two-way, and once the traffic patterns are kind of standard, and after we get back into school, they'll go back and reevaluate the timing of the lights. So that will happen with this one as well. Just to mention also Forest Road Phase 2, that one is currently under design, and the River Road Bradley Park roundabout is currently under design. Front Avenue is in process. This was approved by council at the last meeting. The bridge replacements, those are under design for Decatur, Boxwood, Waterford, and Edgewood. Fort Benning Road, Brennan Road, the right-of-way is complete. That's the roundabout. So that will be moving forward with construction shortly. Fort Benning Road streetscapes, the right-of-way acquisition is in process. So we're moving forward with that project as well. And the Winton Road streetscapes, that we're just completing the right-of-way acquisition for that particular project. There's some local drainage projects. Oakland Park Phase 2A is out for bid, and that's expected completion for September of 16. The Joy Road, Casita Road drainage improvements, expected completion is May of 2016. And the Bull Creek Golf Course drainage improvements, that particular project has been put on hold at the request of Bull Creek. Some GDOT projects, this Whittlesey Road, again, we get quite a few complaints on this project. This is a GDOT project, and we do coordinate and work with them as best we can. This project is scheduled to be completed at the end of this year in 2016. The Talbotton Road project.
Pam, Whittlesey Road, is there a reason that the GDOT is telling you that it's taking them so long? What is going on?
We can request them to submit kind of a project report to us. They've had multiple issues with utility relocations as well, but I can have them respond to a timeline.
I think we need a written report on that. We get a lot of questions from the citizens, and I know often the transportation projects don't make sense unless you're really working them and understand the moving parts, but I think a written report would help us respond to questions.
Sure.
Yeah.
On the Talbotton Road, that project is expected to be a 5-year completion. So again, this will be a long-term project, but once it's completed, will be a great enhancement to that area of the city, and that will be widening from 2 lanes to 4 lanes. Technology Parkway, this is Whittlesey. Technology Parkway is almost complete. We're looking at the end of June for that to be completed. And then Veterans Parkway North, again, this is a GDOT project that's currently under construction. That's the widening from 2 lanes to 4 lanes, and that is expected to be completed in 2017. T-SPLOS project, the Follow Me Trail. You can see that a lot of the signage is going in. We're expecting to be completed with the trail sometime in May of 2016. So shortly, the trailheads are almost complete. They're finishing up the trailheads for the Follow Me Trail. And just to mention the Bid Mill, City Mill Riverwalk project, that's in the bid process currently, and that schedule date has not been determined yet. The Buena Vista Road spiderweb improvements, which we talked a little bit about earlier, that's in process. The intercity bus expansion, that is part of the FY17 budget, and we'll have more discussions during the budget process on exactly what is planned for FY17. And the US 27 Custer Road improvements is under construction. This is managed by GDOT, and that will be 2018 completion. The projects that we have listed here are the ones that were approved earlier in the resolution, and so I won't go through those individually. There's many projects that are on the horizon that we expect to bring forward to council during FY17. I'll let you know that the Beaver Run Road roundabout that we've been looking at, GDOT is requesting support from the city. It looks like they're going to take over and manage and fund that project, and they're looking to us for the maintenance and lighting for that particular project, the utilities to go with lighting. So that will come off a locally funded and be funded by GDOT. 2 other projects that GDOT is looking at is the Williams Road, I-185, both southbound and northbound. They're looking at signals for those particular locations, and again, looking 185 in Williams, the southbound and the northbound exit ramps, looking at traffic lights there, and then in the future a roundabout. And again, they're only looking to the city commitment for the utilities related to the lighting, the street lights, and maintenance on the landscape. And then these are other projects that we've discussed before that will be coming back to council in future years. And one of the projects that we had listed on the resolution earlier that we indicated would be T-SPLOS discretionary, which was the Salmon Road signal. We do have the potential to get LMIG funding for that. If that does happen, we will come back and notify council that that T-SPLOS discretionary was not needed to be used if we get LMIG funding from the state. But at this point, we're moving forward with requesting the LMIG funds, and if it happens that way, then we'll definitely let council know that we won't need the T-SPLOS discretionary.
Pam, I have a question for you. In reference to the sidewalks, we're not doing just the plain concrete and that's it, where there's no, I don't know how to describe it, are we lifting the sidewalk up a little bit so that the cars aren't in there, it's not directly on the streets?
It probably depends on the location. These are kind of an allocation of funding for sidewalks, and what we do is look at areas we've been looking at around school districts, around bus stops, to make sure that citizens can get to those particular locations. And then we're looking at if there's a worn path in particular locations that a sidewalk obviously would be beneficial. So we're just doing those as we do resurfacing contracts in the same manner as just adding on and requiring sidewalks, but those are the 5-foot wide concrete sidewalks.
Right, I just want to make sure I explain myself correctly or an understanding. I know that we've done some sidewalks, but let's say this is the road, we just paved it to look like a sidewalk.
She's talking about
but it's
curb and
not.
gutter.
Curbing and gutter. Thank you, I couldn't think of what it
So,
was.
and I would hope that our policy is we don't lay sidewalks without curb and gutter anymore. But what is our
That's
policy?
where I was going, thank you, Mayor. I couldn't think of it.
What's that?
It depends on the design of the road and the location. So unless we're redesigning that road and making improvements to the road where there would be a curb and gutter to add a sidewalk. But if it's an existing road and there's no plans to add curb and gutter and the sidewalk is warranted, then we would look at putting a sidewalk in that particular location.
And when you say gutter, I'm thinking like on the ground, you know, it has the sewer. Is that what you're talking about? Well, if there's an existing one, wouldn't then you,
Do you have a particular location? And we can get with you and talk
yeah,
about
you can
that.
get with me. I just want to show what I'm talking in reference because there's two different types of sidewalks going in. And the ones that we've done in some of the areas, I didn't agree with them, but I didn't have 6 votes, so I had to just go with it. But I feel they're unsafe. And I think that, you know, the grass and the dirt covers them off after a while, and you don't even know they're a path to walk on. And so I come from big cities, and they're always gutters and curves.
Right.
And here, we didn't do that. I know we were trying to get enough to cover lots of streets around school, but I don't know if that was very, you know, the right way to go. So when I see the sidewalks, I don't want us to continue doing that if we are able to do it differently, especially with the beautification and the bike trails, and because I can see, we can meet, and I can take you to one I'm thinking of right now. I mean, the road is only a 2-lane. It's right there with the traffic, and it has a lot of traffic that goes down that street. And I think to myself, someone walking, you know, car, hasn't happened, thank God, but if something should happen, that kind of concerns me. And the other point was that where, I don't know if it's in this or where would it go, where we would put something to cover the bus stops when it's in near a school area, you know, where the children are. Waiting for it's a city bus stop, and it's near a school area or a public area that's open. What are we doing? Is any projects under construction, any projects to do that?
That particular item would be covered through Metro as far as bus stops, and there are some funding that's in the T-Splost Metro project to do additional bus stops and
Well, I would like,
but not substantial.
I would like then for us, or you can email me or we can talk. I would like to see some, because I know I brought one up for Broadmoor, because I've had several complaints about it, and I still haven't heard anything on what's the possibility or what we can do for that bus stop area.
Well, and of course, we're talking about, are you talking about bus stops for school kids or
Well,
just?
it's a city bus stop.
A city bus stop.
It's a city bus stop. And my other one is, and I know the city manager is just going to close his eyes when I say this. I didn't see anything on the request I made for, maybe 2 years on South Lumpkin Road, beautification for future projects. As we're bringing the Westville and the Infantry Museum and all these other development and with things occurring in South Columbus, we were going in the right direction, but it's starting to look like we're going back the wrong direction. because it seemed like we're not giving it the attention that we were giving it. And I've always been concerned with the South Lumpkin Road because that's another avenue that people can use, and it's not being used. And that side of the community is just going down the hill because there is no, the traffic that should have come through there, what should have been through or should go through, it's not going because it's not appealing.
We'll add that one to the list of our future projects.
Okay, but I didn't see it on there. That's why
Right.
I was asking, because I didn't see it on your slide as one of your future
We'll add
projects.
it to the list.
Thank you.
All right. Counselor Thomas.
Mr. City Manager, I want to publicly thank in particular Director Newman and Director Jones. It seems in the last 3 or 4 weeks, I have had a lot of either calls or emails from people asking questions about projects going on in the city. And I have been able to send those emails to particularly Director Newman and Director Jones and say, I don't know the answer to this, but these people do. And invariably, within hours, I get a copy of an email back that those two have sent to the citizen who is asking the question, and they're answering whatever needs to be done. And I know that both of these people will just sort of shrug it and say, it's my job, but it really makes a big difference when you know that there are people, and they're not the only ones, they just happen to be the ones in the last week, couple of weeks that I've had contact with. It really is reassuring to know that there are people that you can do that with, that you can just send the email and they'll take care of it. And I want to publicly thank you and your staff for doing that. That it's not unusual, and it's not unusual in our city. It is unusual in some other businesses and some other places, but the deputy city managers as well as your directors are always so helpful, and I appreciate it. It makes us all look good, and I want to thank them for their efforts.
Thank you.
All right. Counselor Davis.
Could we pull that list back up? The last slide? It's okay. Do you have that, Director,
Yes. The future
Deputy City Manager
projects?
Hodge, do you have that list?
Yes.
Well, what my question is the completion of the north end of the Riverwalk somewhere in those, in those?
Yes,
Projects.
that's part of the past partnership for trail
Okay.
extensions.
All right.
That piece is one of the extensions.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And it looks like that concludes discussion on that issue.
Okay.
All right, we're going to go right into a finance update.
So this is the finance update for February of 2016. At the next council meeting, we'll have March reports available. The general fund is up 1.54%. The local option sales tax is down 1.74%. Total for the stormwater fund up 1.67%. The paving fund up 0.89%. Medical center fund up over 2%, 2.01. Integrated waste is remaining flat from last year at a negative 0.05% minimal decline. The E911, we're still seeing decline in that fund at 1.43%. Economic development up 3%. The debt service fund is up 5.92%. Transportation Metra up 5.33%. Parking management is up 32.68%. The Trade Center up 16.91%. And again, to note, for the Trade Center, revenues at $1,680,000, expenditures at $1,615,000. The Bull Creek down slightly at 0.81 or 0.18%. The Oxbow Creek down 9.40%, and the Civic Center up 51.82%. The health insurance fund down 11% compared to last year, and at the end of February was operating at a difference of a negative $2.3 million. On the expenditure report for the general fund, most departments are operating within their budget. We do have a few that are on the watch list that are over where they should be at this time of the year, one being litigation, and that's over 343%. That's due to the fact of the volume of litigation at this point. The IT department is slightly over where they should be, and that was due to the annual licensing fees for Microsoft. The employee benefits is over slightly from where they should be, but this is an annual contribution for the death and major disability, so this is where we expect to be. The jury manager has a subscription that's due at the beginning of the year, which shows that they're over budget from where they should be. And the public defender, we have a monthly contract that's paid in advance, so that's paid 1 month in advance. And then the sheriff, slightly over the percentage at 32.5% as opposed to 33%. On the other local option sales tax, collections to date is right at $20 million, and I've provided the report to show the expenditures by department for the other local option sales tax. And also on the infrastructure, the projects that have been funded and where those projects are on the funding source for roads, stormwater, IT, and the facility improvements. On the T-SPLOST discretionary, I provided a report to you earlier that's actually more current than this report, but this report shows the expenditures by project for the Riverwalk, South Lumpkin, Rails to Trails, the US 27 Custer Road interchange, the Buena Vista Spiderweb improvements, and the Metro Bus Park and Ride. Those are the projects that are in process to date. And then we have 3 discretionary projects: the Boxwood Boulevard Bridge replacement, Victory Drive improvements, and then resurfacing. And then there were additional projects that were approved tonight that will be added to the discretionary list. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Doesn't appear that we have any questions at this time.
Madam Mayor, the last item on my agenda is the lightning, Aquatic Center lightning update.
Okay.
Assistant City Attorney Lucy Sheftel is going to talk to us about that.
Thank you.
Good evening, councilors. I am going to provide a very brief update on the process of applying for our waiver or variance from Rule 11 of Article 10 of Chapter 511.3.5.18 of the State of Georgia's regulations. And as you will recall, Rule 11 provides that, quote, no swimming allowed during heavy rain or when thunder or lightning can be seen or heard. And that is required by the regulations to be posted at the pool and enforced. We put together a working group, Dr. Worsley and others at Parks and Rec, and new Director Hutchinson has been helping us. And on April 5th, we filed an application for a waiver of the rule with the Department of Public Health, the State Department. And last week, we heard back from them, Mr. Maurice Redmond, who is in the Public Swimming Pools and Tourist Accommodations Program for the Environmental Health section of the Department of Public Health. He stated that our waiver request had been assigned to him. He provided us with additional forms to be completed and asked for a conference call for all of us who were working on the application. That conference call took place last Wednesday and was very enlightening. The staff is now working on completing the assigned additional forms. During the conference call, we were able to gain much clarification of the process and make Mr. Redmond aware of our reasons and needs for the ruling. He cautioned that the process will take 4 to 6 weeks at least and involve legal review from their in-house counsel. He stated that to the best of his knowledge, no indoor pool in the entire state has ever received a waiver or variance of this provision. He specifically stated that Georgia Tech had never received a waiver. He recommended that we seek a variance and not an outright waiver of the rule, as a complete indefinite waiver is rarely granted by the department. Obtaining a variance requires showing that our particular facility has alternative standards which will provide equal protection to swimmers. We had already submitted an affidavit of Director Hutchinson stating that our aquatic center building is grounded and bonded in accordance with all applicable code requirements. But in addition to that, we will need to submit further information about the condition and safety of the building itself, statistics about lightning risks in indoor pools, and most importantly, we will have to enunciate a weather policy for keeping individuals within the structure safe during extreme weather events. Staff is continuing to work on that on a policy that would be satisfactory to the swimming community and tournament sponsors, while at the same time adequately protecting the safety of the swimmers. I know that our working group would welcome any additional materials that could serve as supportive documentation for this request. We'll keep you informed as things progress, and if anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Great. Well, thank you, Lucy, and I want to commend you for the hard work you've done, and our staff too. You know, it's been such a really productive process since you guys got in there and started sorting through all this information. I know there were some emails that went out last week, and I have spoken with our various stakeholders. They've been supportive and constructive in trying to change the tone of blame, and it's the incompetence of our city and our mayor and our city manager that we're going to lose this meet because they're making us go through these rules. And I understand that initial frustration. But the truth of the matter is that if they would like to turn that energy towards lobbying the Department of Health to change this rule, that would be very constructive. And just to kind of walk back through it, not to relive the trauma of this, but just to tell you why it took these steps, is we all were being barraged with information, not intentionally so, but that was flatly incorrect. People just had misunderstandings. And so as we went wildly around to answer our constituents' concerns and questions, it was wrong at every single turn. There was no lightning protection system that protected swimmers in a pool. That turned out to be incorrect. There was no statement or waiver or variance that said if you had a lightning protection system, you could swim during lightning and have swim meets. There was no pool in the state of Georgia that had a waiver. When we contacted these pools, and frankly, I can tell you, I think their city attorneys are quite busy right now. I think they just had individuals in their Parks and Rec department or whatever that was just by the rule of do just decided to let people swim or just state publicly they would let people swim. And frankly, in my opinion, and it's for their attorney to deal with them, I think they have, you know, if anything happens, they've waived their sovereign immunity, or somebody's going to claim they've waived their sovereign immunity. I'm sure they didn't realize that when they did it, but fortunately Muskogee County was able to understand the issues and alerted these other counties and these other municipalities to the fact that they're living dangerously. And so they will be working hard, probably riding on our tailcoats. When we get this variance, they'll come in, no doubt, because of our hard work and get one as well. The Georgia Tech does not have a waiver. They have provided us with no such letter as they originally claimed. I don't know if that's because they didn't have one or they can't find it, but they haven't come back. The entity that started this conversation and told us that they had a requirement that we had to waive our lightning situation in order to get a meet. Turns out they don't have any such requirement. We've asked them to provide that in writing, and that's just not correct. They state it, and that's fine. It's their organization to set the rules. But they don't have any such requirement in writing anywhere that they have provided to us. So we have been working through this, there was also the statement that we were imbeciles because, and these emails, sort of lay that out, mostly coming from these outside sources, but we're all imbeciles here because it's so clear that the Department of Health will just grant this waiver. All we need to do is ask, and we're getting caught up on the details. Well, the first time we contacted them, they said they were going to alert their lawyer and have their lawyer call us back. So clearly, they realized there were legal issues abounding here, and thankfully Lucy was able to get to the bottom of what process you go through to get a variance of the law. And that's what we're doing, responsibly so, and I have to commend the Health Department for helping us. But if people remain passionate and remain frustrated, they can really help us change this policy by lobbying the Department of Health, sending letters, asking, putting all that information, hopefully accurate information that they find in letters and sending it to them. And it's just not constructive to say that we're being recalcitrant or that we're imbeciles or that we are more concerned about being right than we are about getting swim meets. I mean, we wake up and we try to be right, but we want to do the right thing by our citizens. And that's all we're trying to do. And I want to commend those with the swimmer stakeholders that have now been working with us to try to change the tone, and let's all just be more productive. We've come so far. So Lucy, keep on it, and maybe you can cut that 4 to 6 weeks down to 3 weeks or whatever. But hopefully wherever the swim meet went, I don't know what's going to happen there, but it could be their city attorney tells them they can't have it until they get a waiver. And if that happens, maybe they'll come on back to Columbus. I don't know, but we can't write the state law. We can only ask for a waiver.
Right.
Okay?
And again, any additional materials that we could make part of our packet, we can include them if people want to submit them to us.
We could do it as a letter of support. So if you have constituents you know are interested, ask them to write a letter, get it to Lucy. She'll put it as a statement of support, and we'll send it on up, and hopefully we'll get favorable treatment. So thank you, Lucy, for figuring out how to do it for the state of Georgia. All right, Mr. City Manager, where did I think he took a break? All right, so I'm going to say that his agenda is over, and we are going to move on to the clerk. Madam Clerk.
Madam Mayor and members of council, on the clerk's agenda, item 1 is a biographical sketch of Ms. Libby Smith. This is Councilor Thomas' nominee that she will be nominating for the Historic and Architectural Review Board. We received copies of financial statements from Columbus Regional Healthcare for their various properties, temporary street closing application to close some streets on April 27th in connection with the Prince Tribute Concert. Have a resolution excusing Councilor Allen.
We've got a motion and second for approval. All those in favor, please state aye.
We have a letter of resignation, Mr. Richie Grantham resigning from the Civic Center Advisory Board.
We've got a motion and a second to accept with regret. All those in favor, please state aye.
Minutes of various boards can be received.
We've got a motion and second that the minutes be received. All those in favor, please state aye.
On our board appointments, on the Board of Family and Children Services, Dr. Deepali Agawa, her term will be expiring in June. She is eligible and would like to serve again. Someone wants, she would have to be renominated, and we'll confirm at our next meeting. Also, Ms. Maddie Wright has resigned. We'll need a nominee for that seat. On our Civic Center Advisory Board, Mr. Walter Lewis, who represented District 1, is not eligible. We'll need a new... Okay. And also, Councilor Woodson, Mr. Jim Irvin, who represents your district, is not eligible as well. On our Golf Course Authority, we have these seats coming up in June. Mr. Sam Warren, his term will be expiring. Okay. Also, Ms. Rudine Nelson, she is not eligible to succeed herself. We'll need a nominee for that seat. And also, Mr. Carl Williams is not eligible.
The Mayor Pro Tem has asked you to check how many females are on that board. If they need any gender diversity, would you let her know?
Okay, we'll check that and get that.
Yes, Counselor Huff.
I had to leave early last meeting. Was anyone else nominated for that board last meeting?
No.
Okay, I'd like to nominate Judge Allen,
Okay,
John Allen,
Judge Allen, okay.
for the Carl Williams Jr. seat.
Carl Williams seat?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And also on our Circle Commission, Mr. Paul Hernandez has been nominated. He can be confirmed.
Got a motion and second for confirmation. All those in favor, please state aye.
And also we'll need someone for Mr. Pedro Augusto's seat on our, excuse me, and on our development, and also, I'm sorry, on the community development, Mr. Jack Hayes, District 2, is not eligible to succeed himself. We'll need a new nominee, Councilor Davis, for that seat. Also, Mr. Zaki Shahid represents District 8, is eligible. However, he does not want to serve again, as well as the District 9 represented, Mr. Colin Martin. So we'll need a nominee for those two seats.
Oh, I'm sorry, Counselor Thomas.
Madam Clerk, remind me again, is this one the one that the districts are council districts or are not council districts?
On the Community Development Advisory, they are district appointments.
So District 9, I will need to find a replacement for Mr. Martin.
That is correct.
Thank you.
And on our Deferred Compensation Board, this is a new board that was established pursuant to the resolution that was adopted restating the 457 Deferred Comp Plan. Council will need to nominate someone in this position who needs to be a plan expert volunteer in this particular field. On our Development Authority, we have two nominees for the seat of Mr. William Taylor, and we can take a vote if council would like, or would like to defer it until we have all councilors present.
2, 4. We have 8. You want to try a roll call?
Okay, we
I
will.
think they probably need members.
Councilor Baker. Councilor Barnes. Councilor Davis.
Oh, wait, it's Cuevas or Douglas?
Cuevas. Councilor Henderson. Councilor Huff. Councilor Thomas. Mayor Pro Tem. And Councilor Woodson. Okay, Mr. Cuevas has been elected. Can I get a motion for confirmation?
I got a motion and second for confirmation. All those in favor, please state aye.
And on a Historic and Architectural Review, Councilor Thomas is nominating Ms. Okay, we'll bring this back at our next meeting for confirmation. On a Personnel Review, on a Pension Board, Ms. McDaniel is being renominated by the mayor. She can be confirmed.
Confirmation.
Got a motion and second for confirmation. All those in favor, please state aye.
And then on our Personnel Review Board, Dr. Michael Forte has been nominated. He can be confirmed.
Move confirmation.
We've got a motion and second for confirmation. All those in favor, please state aye.
Then on our Recreation Advisory Board, Councilor Woodson, we still need someone for Ms. Tracy Belk's seat, who has resigned. District 8, Councilor Buck is nominating Mr. Hayden Barnes. He can be confirmed.
Move confirmation.
Got a motion and second for confirmation. All those in favor, please state aye.
On our Tree Board, Mr.
Got a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second from the Mayor Pro Tem to confirm Mr. Brad Huff for the Tree Board. All those in favor, please state aye.
And also Ms. Cassie Renfro.
We've got a motion and a second from the Mayor Pro Tem to approve Cassie Renfro on the Tree Board. All those in favor, please state aye.
And that is all I have, Madam Mayor.
Okay, great. I believe we have a request for an executive session on matters of litigation. Okay, I'll entertain a motion. And a second. All those in favor, please state aye. Okay, if you would, please clear the chambers. Thank you. All right, we are back from executive session on matters of litigation. No votes were taken. Our business is concluded tonight, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please state aye. All right, we're adjourned. See you next Tuesday.